This is John from Acosta Productions. I'm here with Seth Hymes, the filmmaking coach and marketing consultant extraordinaire. How's it going, man?
I'm good, John. How are you?
I'm excellent. Guys, Seth Hymes is an amazing guy. He comes from a background of interesting film technique and I guess taboo / weird, awesome ways of handling and learning film and videography. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that, why film school isn't so smart, I guess, and isn't the best investment, no matter what someone tells you, as well as some business tactics for creating great video and film if you're trying to be a film creator or director or producer. So Seth, let's start with stating your name and exactly what it is you do on a day-to-day basis.
Well, my name is Seth Hymes. I like long walks on the beach. I'm a marketing consultant, and I basically have I work for I have a permanent position with a particular company where I'm basically paid to consult on all their marketing matters for their web and also shoot videos for them. And I also run a coaching program online called Film School Solution, which is the next step in a site I started in 2010 called Film School Secrets, where I basically take aspiring filmmakers, because I went to NYU Film School and I learned that it was a complete waste of time and money if your interest is directing feature films. So I've been on the net for about 4 years, raising a little hell, and I basically take aspiring filmmakers. My main goal at first was to help prevent them from wasting their life savings on film school, and then I show them what to do instead to start shooting great-looking videos and actually direct feature films and get them directly to an audience.
That's awesome.
I have a few different things going on.
Yeah. So, and I guess we'll tackle it from your, from your history. So you said you went to NY Film School. Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about your experience there and how you realized it wasn't worth what you were getting out of it.
Well, here's the thing, guys. When I was 17, that's when I really started my filmmaking career, and it started in high school in a video class called Video Communications. My teacher, Mr. Chorkey, in a week taught me everything. It took a week.
One week, that's it.
One week. With a VHS camera, I learned how to shoot, how to storyboard, how to edit. I didn't learn how to light, but that is something you can learn in like 10 minutes. It's hilarious, the difference between the amount of time it really takes to learn this stuff and the amount of time that a school will make you think it takes. So I was shooting videos when I was 17, 18. I got on a pro film set when I was 17 just by calling up the director and saying, hey, can I help out? And I was really like pumped to make movies. And then I went to NYU because, you got to go to college, right?
Yeah, that's the main track. That's how you do it, right? That's how you succeed.
You're going to end up sleeping in a cardboard box if you don't. So I went to NYU just because I heard Martin Scorsese went there. I didn't really understand anything about the business, and I assumed they were going to train me how to make I just assumed, like a 17-year-old kid, right? 18-year-old kid. Well, when I got there, first off, Michael Moore came and spoke at a thing, and he said to us, I learned everything about movies in a week.
Wow.
And I said, I had the same experience. But he's like, stay in school, kids,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they paid him to say that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten paid off stage.
He said it to a room full of students, and then it was like this dead silence. And then he was like, stay in school.
Don't do drugs? Was that the next line? Don't do drugs?
Yeah, right?
God.
Just say no. Basically, the curriculum at the school was just ridiculous. We spent the first year making slideshows and doing radio dramas. And then the second year they gave me these, we used a little we made black and white movies that were the same types of things I'd done when I did a workshop when I was 17. And your third year you finally make a movie with color and sound. And
oh my, wow.
It's
the future, yeah.
So at the time, though, you're kind of in this brain warp where you're like, well, I'm in college, they must know what they're doing, And then I graduated, and I worked at Fox News actually for 9 months, which was as an editor, okay. And it wasn't until about 7 years later that like most of my classmates were much more talented than me, but nobody went on to work in the industry just because the school it doesn't train you for that. It's a lot of academic. The professors don't work in the industry; they're very disconnected. And there's any film school I learned later, even USC, AFI, all these for-profit schools, they teach short filmmaking, which is something you can do on your own with your friends, 48-hour film festival, whatever. You're going to learn the same thing. They don't teach you how to market your movie. They don't even teach you how to make a feature. That's what I was so baffled by. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's actually kind of surprising to me too. And it's just to interrupt you real quick. I actually did the same thing, but this is the biggest thing for me. I realized as well they don't teach you features at all. They don't teach you anything more than what you could learn essentially in 10 minutes, like you said, or 10 days a week. But that's very true. The short film circuit is kind of what they sell you on. Like go this route, throw your shit, make a 10-minute film, just throw it into some festival, see what happens.
Absolutely.
That's
if there's anyone watching this who wants to be a filmmaker, I know it's like I call it the escalator to nowhere. Of nothing. You go to a short film festival, you shake a lot of hands, you get some business cards, you feel really great. I was just at Holly Shorts this week because I have a friend who had a film in there. There's a ton of girls in tight dresses and guys with fitted suits all pretending to be hot shit. Pardon my French, I might have to beep that. And then you feel like, wow, I got to do a short film festival. So what? Producers, people with money, don't care about that. They want to know, can you make a feature, and are people going to pay money to see it? And that's all they care about, because it's a business. But no one sits you down in film school. The problem with it is it becomes this huge, complicated thing. And I even sat down with some Chapman kids recently, and I was like, guys, have you thought about making a well-written, small, tight first feature like every big filmmaker, from Christopher Nolan to Steven Soderbergh, all those filmmakers that went on to make big movies? They started with something small, but they didn't do it short, And they couldn't think that way because they've been trained in school to think like, well, I'm going to raise all this money. And I'm like, dude, you're not going to raise money. I raised $40,000 for a feature of mine from strangers 7 years after graduating. That's when I learned about the business side of things. It was very hard to do, and I don't recommend that you spend the energy on your first feature focused on fundraising. Which is
that's a whole other catalyst. I mean, it's like you've already got this massive behemoth of a project you want to make visually appealing, make it sound incredible, make it the creme de la creme of films or short films, and yet you've still got to go on to this other tackling this other massive array of business that you've never. And you're asking people for money. That's just a pain in the ass, But can you speak to that actually? Like when it comes to fundraising, what was that like? Because I've actually never gone that route to fund anything.
Okay, so I'll tell you my story, and this is something I actually teach in my course that I was going to plug later, because it's just not taught. I didn't know anything about fundraising, but what I had was a marketable story. The first problem most people have when they're doing their first film is that they make a serious movie that nobody wants to see.
Yep.
What's your movie about? Well, it's about 7 people in their 30s thinking about life. Like, dude, that's not marketable. First, you got to think about things in terms of marketing. What do people actually want to go see, and why do they go to the movies? So I had a comedy. It's called Breaking Balls. It's about a guy who sees his love life as a baseball game. The pitch itself, no pun intended, was simple enough where the average person would go, oh, that sounds funny. And half the people I talked to didn't even care what it was really script. They just thought, oh, that sounds like a funny movie, right?
Yeah.
So that was the first step, is I actually had something people were excited about and actually wanted to be part of. You can also do the same thing with like a horror movie, because people love horror movies of any kind. But what I did was I went out to my hometown where I was in upstate New York, where there's no film industry, and I started talking to people, I was really lucky. I read Rebel Without a Crew by Robert Rodriguez. It kind of lit a fire under my butt, and I just started talking to people. And I met a guy who'd raised $300,000 for a feature. And I just took him out to coffee, and I said, tell me, what did you do? And he was like, well, I refinanced my house.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I don't have a house.
Yep.
And I had to get an attorney, because legally, if you accept more than $10,000 from a private individual, you need to have an attorney and go through the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's a whole legal headache, which is why I tell my students, make your first feature for under $10,000. Don't even get involved with crowdfunding, because most of these kids are out there spending 10 grand on their short films anyway.
That's right.
Learn like what you teach. You can use a camera and learn how to use it the right way with cheap lights and make it look great. And you can see in my reel, I'll show you all the stuff I shot was shot with a budget of nothing. But I got lucky because, I don't know if I got lucky because basically the movie didn't get finished, but I did raise $40,000. And how I did it was I hooked up with an attorney. I had to pay him the little money I had to actually be my attorney and draft this document called a private placement memorandum, which was basically a 300-page document that nobody's going to ever read. But if you go to a person with money and they see this document that has a business plan and like all the disclosures, you have to tell them you're probably going to lose all your money legally, which is one of the reasons I think colleges are fraudulent because they don't ever disclose to you, hey, by the way, you're probably wasting all your money. But,
absolutely not. They're already taking your money while they tell you this. It's the best part. It's like the best
right?
case scenario. Yeah. As they take you, yeah.
Absolutely. So I went into the community, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just knew I was sharing the budget, and then the other problem I had is I should have gone to I had some college kids I knew who were fresh and excited, and I should have just said, let's just get this shot, guerrilla style. It's a good script. There's some funny moments. I have a baseball stadium, which was amazing. We have a AAA baseball stadium. I worked out a deal. But instead, I went to this woman who does a lot of production management for Robert Duvall.
Nice.
Real excited by, oh my God, she's worked with Robert Duvall. So then I started working with all these other professionals who were really talented. But it took my budget, which was I was like, well, maybe I could shoot it with this guy's camera and that guy's microphone. And then the budget was $250,000. And I was like,
yikes.
Wow. And what's so crazy in Hollywood is that that's like not even a movie budget, right? That's like
that's called having a no budget. It's a zero budget.
Absolutely.
Anything under like what, $1 million or 100, maybe 200,000, I think, is zero budget or no budget.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
But in reality, do you have $250,000 to just?
Fuck no. Are you kidding me? No. You know what you could buy with $250,000?
You could a lot.
You could buy a lot. You could buy 2 years worth of happiness. I mean, that's for sure.
That's true. Or you could buy a college degree, you know?
That too. Yeah, or a really nice frickin' house, or maybe 2 houses, depending on where you live.
2 houses in some parts of the country. But the point is, I was sitting here. Now my goal isn't focused on my movie. It's focused on raising this money. And then there's a minimum budget, and then there's, can we shoot it on HD or SD, which this is 2007, mind you. This is all before DSLRs.
Right,
now,
right. Which changed the game.
The majority of our budget was to pay for a Panasonic Vericam, $70,000 camera that one of the DPs I was working with had. That if we had done this in 2010, the budget would have been 10%.
Absolutely, yeah, because of DSLRs, right? Because of the fact that that's ridiculous, man. Yeah, continue. Sorry, getting a little riled up over here.
You know, no worries, man. That's why I get so excited and so kind of frustrated with young filmmakers when they're like, oh, I need $1 million. I'm like, dude, you have a movie studio sitting in your closet with your little T2i. That thing, if you do it right, can get such good images that your audience will not care. And I remember this because in 2006, what did you have? You had the Panasonic DV100, or I'm sorry, DVX100, that got okay images, but my DP actually lit a scene with the DVX100 the right way, and I was like, oh my God, I've never seen anyone light something properly for this camera because it looks amazing. And so it's more about knowing how to light it than it is about buying the red camera. So to roundabout way to get to your question, so I went into the community and I went to a networking group, and I joined this networking group, and I was the weirdest guy in this group. It was great. Everyone there was like an accountant or a lawyer, or they were a dentist or a real estate agent. And I was like, I'm a filmmaker. I'm looking for people to invest $5,000 a share into my movie. And I went to this.
That's brilliant, actually. I'm actually a part of quite a few different networking groups. I'm always the weirdest and youngest one there, too, so I totally feel that.
Okay. That's great, but they love you, I'll bet.
Absolutely. They're like, this guy, he knows what's going on. Like, they always have questions about everything. So.
Oh, cool. We should talk more about that later. I'm curious. But what happened with me is I basically went to these meetings every Friday for 6 months, and pretty much what I got was everybody was super supportive, morally supportive, but nobody had a movie. And also legally and morally, I was like, I can't ask someone to put that kind of money into a movie who isn't really wealthy, because I'm basically saying just blow $5,000 or 10 or 20. But what happened is this, and this is how things work in the world. I stayed committed. I kept my intentions up. And 6 months later, one of the members came over to me and said, Seth, I got to know you. I trust you, and I have a brother who owns a company here, and he's really kind of a character, and he likes these kind of things. So she basically introduced me to her brother, who, funny enough, was a really cool guy who had been asked to invest in the Blair Witch Project.
Wow. Oh, man, but he's kicking the hell out of his ass, her own ass. Wow.
Yeah. So this is the perfect guy to talk to, because he's already kicking himself about not investing in a movie.
Yeah.
But basically, I spent a month getting to know him, and this is where I learned all about sales. Like, I had no training, I didn't know, but I learned I didn't go right into for the kill, you know. I got to know the guy, he got to know me, we kind of built some rapport. And after the fourth time we like had lunch or something, I showed him the private placement memorandum. I showed him I know what I'm, that's the biggest thing with filmmakers. After this whole story, I'd say, if you just have a business plan, if you even just put some thought into how you're going to recoup your investors' money, you're so far ahead of every other filmmaker trying to raise money. I say it's like being on a date, you know, or on a dating site. I always, like, I'm on a dating site and these girls are like telling me about the messages they get from these guys that are like either obscene or like they're sending pictures of their private parts. And then I come along and I'm like, hi, I can put together a sentence, you know. I have to,
I have a vernacular, yeah, all right.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's how it is with investors. As filmmakers come over, they're completely oblivious, and they're like, yeah, I'm making a movie about this woman and her love affair with shoes, and you know how she wants to marry a pair of shoes or something, and I just need $50,000, and you're rich, can you give me money, you know? And that's terrible. That's like, you wouldn't ask. That's like being on a date and just, I'm not going to even say what that's like on a date.
Yeah, no, we get that, yeah. No, man, that's absolutely right. That's exactly, here's the thing, Seth, you're not exaggerating. You're not over-exaggerating. That's absolutely true. That is exactly how it works in the startup realm. It's how it works in the film industry realm for people that are trying to look for money and they're trying to fundraise. I've met people like that. It's embarrassing.
We should, that's a whole other thing to talk about with people who are open to learning, you know. Because some people don't want to learn that, but it's true. So I had a really good relationship with this guy, and finally at the right moment, I turned to him and I said, "Are you going to invest?" You know, and he said yes, and he bought 4 shares. He gave me. I went to their office. They wrote me a check for $20,000, and I just thought, you know, it wasn't the full amount, obviously, but it was a huge, huge moment. Where I was like, I just had a stranger write me a check for $20,000 with nothing. He didn't even see. That's the other thing. He didn't see a reel.
No. Wow, that's impressive. Actually, a lot of investors would like to see your previous work beforehand. So.
I think I showed him my DP's reel, maybe. But mostly, investors are investing in you, and what they're looking for. It's so funny. Like they're looking for talent to a degree, but they really, it's like a job interview. They can look into your eye and see if you're full of it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've got a bullshit radar that's better than any of ours. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And you can watch like Shark Tank, and you can see these guys who know it, and they're like yeah, you're not.
You're full of shit.
Yeah. So, yeah. And for me, it was like, hey, this isn't like investing in a precious metal or something. This is a kind of wild investment, but I'm going to make my wild investment with this guy. So anyway, we got the $20,000 from him, and then we did a fundraising meeting. Oh my God, I had my accountant set out. I met this accountant at this thing. He sent out all these beautiful-looking invitations to all of basically the wealthy people that he knew in town. 2 people RSVP'd. I rented a ballroom and did a presentation.
Wow.
I showed up in jeans and a T-shirt.
Wow.
My whole team was there with me, dressed in suits. I looked like crap, and they were like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was suffering from the same thing a lot of new startup people do. Like I didn't think of how I'm presenting myself.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's, you know, there's a lot to say to that. The way you present yourself to people that have money, especially, is key. So when, you know, there's that age-old tale of like, I don't know, judging a book by its cover, you know, and that's. Well, I'm going to let you continue your story. So what happened? I mean, you were in your jeans and your T-shirt. There were 2 embarrassingly bad pitch meetings. So this was the second one, and it was basically there was a couple who had shown up, an older couple who all in their late 60s or 70s, and like one other person in this huge ballroom at this place. And I'm doing the presentation, and it's these 2 people, and it just was, and I had cut together we shot a little bit of footage, so I tried to put together like not exactly a sizzle reel, but like kind of give people a sense of what the movie's about. Like a trailer,
a trailer, but like it was, imagine shooting a random scene from your movie where you're like trying to give people context. Again, this is trial and error, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we finished the thing, and I felt so uncomfortable because it's kind of like, all the pressure that we like, please give us money, was going on to this poor 2 people sitting there. You know, it was so awkward.
That's terrible.
It was terrible. And And then before that, we had a friend who put together a meeting with all these wealthy people in one of the suburbs, and I had nothing prepared. This was the previous one. I had my DP there, who's a really accomplished producer-director who makes really good money shooting commercials. He already shot a feature. He liked my script. He liked me. His reel is really impressive. But he had like literally 20 rich people in a room. At that point I had no business plan, and I didn't even have a powerful like, guys, here's what we want you to invest in, or here's how you can legally do it. We were basically begging for money. So we kind of put it out there, and we were like, I feel like it was like being a kid and being like, so mom, there's this thing I really want. It'd be really cool if I could get it.
Right. I mean, you got to come in with like presentation. You got to come in with slides to say why you would like the toy, why the new Lego is better than your previous one.
Absolutely. Why the new Lego is better. I love that.
Yeah, well, I love Legos, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those were the first two, and finally, after the first two screw-ups, on the third one, we did a third one after we shot some footage at a local base. This is part of a strategy I use with my students, where I say, if you are shooting a movie in a small town and you can get press in a way you cannot do in LA, because nobody cares in LA. That's why a lot of my students, they say, oh, I'm going to move to LA and be a big filmmaker. I'm like, do not come here. You will be one of 7 million people who nobody cares about. But if you make a movie in Kentucky, in a small town, it's a huge deal, and you can get a lot of press. So I got a lot of press in my hometown, even though the movie was like still didn't have a budget. And I learned the power of publicity in a small town. And during that, we shot at a baseball stadium. We were on the news, and a couple of people who showed up at that were like interested in the movie as an investment. So one guy came. We did another thing where I invited people. Like 3 people showed up this time instead of 2, right?
Moving on up. Yep.
And I heard, by the way, I heard Tyler Perry tell a much more, like 10 years of this kind of thing before he became big, so I got a lot of inspiration from that. But by this point, I had the private place memorandum, I had everything locked into place, I'd already raised the $20,000, I felt much more confident, I had a suit, I had the presentation, and I did this killer, it was like a movie, right? It was like the final act where I finally was like, boom, 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 I like finally did it right.
Yeah, you learned your lesson and everything's good, the narrative's working out, yeah. So what happened, Seth? What happened?
Yeah. And the one guy there, after it was done, wrote us a check for 10 grand.
Nice. So,
and then there was another person who was going to do 10. And honestly, unfortunately, I wish that the story was like, but I was 40 grand into a $250,000 budget, and I had spent like 8 months doing this. And I have to tell you, I mean, this is not my passion. My passion was shooting movies. So the prospect of keeping at this, for me, I basically wussed out is how I look at it. I look at some people, I know they've like kept at it for 4 or 5 years, and I just like I went to LA and I was like, I'm gonna try to do this the Hollywood way, which was a much worse idea, but we didn't finish raising the money, and so I gave back the money to the people who give it to us.
Wow.
If you don't meet the minimum budget, you give them back the money. I didn't want anyone to lose their money on this.
Of course. And so this isn't like you were doing this on Kickstarter. This is straight up people that you met, and you said, okay, this is what I'd like. They gave it to you, and you were able to give it back. That's very smart. Okay.
We couldn't finish the movie because at the time it still was so insurmountable, the budget, and it was getting bigger. And this is where, afterwards I felt kind of, I felt disappointed, but we had so much working against us, and I thought this is what most filmmakers were dealing with before. This is before Kickstarter.
Absolutely, before Kickstarter, before DSLRs, since 2007, right? So it makes sense.
I actually went on my website in 2006. I had this crappy website, right? But I did a TV commercial, and I got like 5,000 people to that website, and I put up on a HTML page like, if you give us $5, we will put your name in the credits. And I had like a PayPal link. And it looks so ghetto, right? But I look at it now and I'm like, that was a Kickstarter campaign.
Dude, that was a business model right there. You could have created Kickstarter. That's awesome.
But it was 2006 and people weren't used to paying for things online. And what am I going to hit? It was Kickstarter gives you kind of an authority in a way. But But yeah, none of these things existed. So now I know what it's. Now I feel kind of like my grandparents, like, well, when I was a kid, we didn't have a washing machine. So
Yeah.
2014, and I'm like, dude, you don't need to raise 250 grand. You don't need a red camera or even film, which film is like, it's like so expensive and such a waste. I see these kids at AFI shooting their thesis films on film for $50,000, $60,000, and they have no idea, because I know professors at these film schools, I know people in the industry. They're not sitting there looking at an AFI thesis film going, oh my God, let's give this guy a feature deal. They're looking at it and going, wow, this kid really knows how to spend $60,000 on a great DP.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, they're not looking at it as like, I think these days everyone's trying to save money and you're trying to cut costs. I think you're irrational if you think shooting on film is going to give you brownie points. To an investor, that just looks like you're wasting your money, and you're going to waste their money if they happen to give you some. So.
Absolutely. This is what I talk to my students about, is how to be a business group. So anyway, just for your viewers, for people watching, I don't know if you want to be a filmmaker, or more likely you want to bring video into your business, but I just want to, so one of the things I found people struggle with as far as video and business is people are like, I don't know how to make my video look great, or what do I have to say? That's a business thing, is like, oh, I don't know if I have enough authority to say something,
Mm-hmm.
I looked up with my film thing, and I'm sitting here going, man, I went to film school, I tried making a feature, I raised all this money, but it didn't get made. I have a lot of great information to share for aspiring filmmakers, but I don't have that success story like Robert Rodriguez,
Yeah.
I'm not Tarantino. I'm like someone you've never heard of. So it was really hard for me, because I was sitting here thinking, man, what right do I have to share this stuff with people, what I've learned? Because I learned so much from that experience. And in 2010 is when I started blogging about this, and I put together a course on basically I took everything I learned from all these experiences, and I put it into this course called Film School Secrets. And I shot, ironically, a really bad sales video.
God.
For filmmaking.
Way to kill it.
What's that?
I was going to say, way to kill it, man, yeah. But no.
Well, here's what's ironic. This is what I learned about video, is that it started with me talking to the camera with a really nice shot on a 5D. It looked really nice. And then I did a PowerPoint presentation for 10 minutes. And the PowerPoint presentation looked like crap, but it was good information. So people started buying the course. And I got really great feedback from my students, because I was teaching them how to get in touch with real filmmakers and how to start, write your feature, don't get stuck with the shorts. And then I start talking about fundraising and stuff. And people are like, wow, this is such great information, thank you. And I learned, I was like, no matter where you're at, if you know more than someone else about something, you can help them. You don't have to become Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg to advise people on business or whatever your field is,
Right, and just to speak to that, I think, so you have the Udemy course, it still exists, right? It's still up right now. It's Film School Secrets, is that correct?
Film School Secrets is not a Udemy course.
Oh, it's not? Okay. Yeah, I know you have one. It's not, I don't know which one it is, though.
I teach a course. I do affiliate marketing, too, and I teach people at the course called Make Money with Simple YouTube Videos. And so that's more, that's not about video production. That's actually about shooting very simple videos using like screen capture software to promote affiliate programs on YouTube. And I've made a good deal of money doing that. And
that's right. Yeah, I've seen it, and I've tried that myself in the past, as far as finding a niche and doing affiliate links to other products and so forth. Yeah. But without going into that, let's get back to the film school thing. So, where can we still find this Film School Secrets? I guess tutorial or class? Is it?
Yeah, filmschoolsecrets.com. So I had this basic course that basically was like a 3 or 4 hour kind of like no holds barred intro, like boot camp to film career. But then I realized, like, people who want to actually make a feature or shoot a feature and then actually get marketing, because I learned all this stuff about marketing, they needed more in-depth instruction. Not just on the marketing, but how to tell a good story. Because that's the other thing missing in the film schools. They don't spend enough time, you don't do enough exercises, and you don't learn about, like I was saying, you don't learn how to make a likable character.
Mm-hmm.
which is why so many student films are terrible.
Right. I think they focus mostly on composition and how to frame a shot, really, you know, and
Exactly.
who the people in the background of the shot need to be, who need to be, and who needs to be there, and who doesn't need to be there. But they don't talk about that. They don't talk about the storytelling. You're right. So
It's very limited, even at the good schools. Anyway, I put together this coaching course that is a much more in-depth, personalized mentoring program. It's another thing. It's a high-ticket course, and I've been selling that online for about the last year. And what's great is I get to work one-on-one with these really, really sharp young filmmakers and help guide them through actually writing and shooting a feature in a way that, and I steer them away from the whole fundraising. Basically avoid the things I did. Take advantage of what you have now, and I show them how to light with the T2i or the T5i or their 5D. I teach them how to direct actors, which is another huge thing they don't, And then when you're in a film school, a lot of the people who are in the acting programs are doing theater.
Yeah, and the last thing you want is a theater actor on a film set, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, without going into too much about that, because that's a whole other other conversation. Yeah, that sucks. That really sucks.
Yeah, you can go to filmschoolsecrets.com and filmschoolsolution.com are the two sites that I still run. Yeah.
Cool. And for those guys, just so you know, if you're watching this or rewatching this, links are going to be in the description right now. You can check them out right now. Just give them a click and see Seth's class. It looks like we're already kind of running out of time here, Seth. So I do want to kind of guide us more into our next and last question, because you've got a great story, and I think everyone's learned a lot at this point. Can you tell me what your particular favorite thing to do in regards to creating videos, and I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, keeping budget low and so forth. Can you teach our students anything about what they can or can't or should or shouldn't spend when it comes to getting your own equipment, when it comes to creating your own productions these days?
Well, my advice from my experience, and you can put a link to my reel up there if you want, is I have you just need a DSLR camera. Almost any camera these days, it's DSLR, is going to be more than enough. You also want to think about where is it going to be seen, because some people buy like the Red camera, and it's like that's a 4K camera, but someone's going to be watching your video on YouTube in a little box. You don't need all that resolution. So I use a T2i. As far as lights go, another thing is I use very inexpensive lights from eBay. It's the same light as you get with a Kino Flow or some of these ARRI lights. And then to me, the secret is, or the thing I focus on is the framing and the lenses, and then camera movement. Camera movement to me is like the secret thing that nobody talks about. Depending on the kind of video that you're shooting. If you're shooting sort of a commercial, camera movement is really important. But if you're talking about like talking head videos and things like that, I don't know if it doesn't have to. At a certain point with these cameras, they're so good. You just got to throw the right light onto the person.
Correct. Yeah.
And these particular cameras, they love light. So just make sure that your color temperature is appropriate.
Right.
I don't know if you teach them about that. I'm sure you do.
So yeah, in my course, I'm teaching everything you're talking about here. It's essentially geared towards DSLR cameras, DSLR production, using super cheap lights, inexpensive techniques to really get in the best out of everything in your production. And so we've already talked about the lighting, the DSLR cameras, and the interchangeable lenses, which is another reason why DSLRs are so great, because you can change out that lens to whatever you want it to be, right?
Yeah.
And then finally, I love that you just spoke about 4K. It's something that I just released in one of my lectures about how everyone's all about 4K. And I was personally I went to NAB in February in Vegas, and it's a big show for national broadcasters, and they always release or announce the biggest cameras coming out. So
right.
The whole talk of the town was 4K this, 4K that, brand new TVs at Best Buy for 4K.
Right.
But I said the same thing. It's that we're not there yet. Not everyone has a 4K TV. Not everyone has a 4K monitor, so why the hell is everybody excited about shooting 4K?
Yeah.
So I totally get that, and I'm glad you spoke to it. So thank you.
The thing is, man, this is the problem with in film school, is that filmmakers are kind of myopic. Like we get focused in on the littlest detail that nobody else cares about. That's why I always say Clerks is the best example to me.
Clerks by Kevin Smith, right?
Kevin Smith is a hilarious movie. It looks like junk, It's shot in black and white. It looks terrible. Christopher Nolan's first movie, Following, doesn't look great. It was shot in black and white. Nobody, no filmmaker, and not even when it comes to video, when you're using video marketing, clearly you want it to look decent. But I call it the visual threshold. That's what name I came up with, which is that once you reach a certain point where it doesn't look terrible, that's not what people care about. You know, look at the videos that go viral. It's not because they were shot so great. People aren't like, oh my God, look at the lighting on this cat video, you know?
The lighting on this 4K cat video.
Actually, it's in 4K, this cute kitten, but I mean, you know, it's so much better than all those other cat videos.
You see every whisker. It's amazing. Yeah, who gives a shit? Like, no one's counting the whiskers on the cat. I know.
Wow, yeah. But you know, what I teach, it's funny because we're talking about technical stuff. I teach about content because, you know, my background's in humor. You know, I shot a thing for a company with the ALS challenge, you know, and I did this like training sequence where the owner of the company is like training like Rocky basically for the ALS bucket challenge. He's like, you know, knocking ice out of the way, and he's like, you know, like punching, you know, it's just like funny stuff, teaching people how to bring humor into their videos, because, you know, people, really that's the most important thing, is how to get people to pay attention to the video, whether it's through how you speak to the camera, or, you know, like what Frank Kern teaches in video marketing about, you know, pattern interrupts. Which is where you basically do something pretty wild in the first 10 seconds of your video to get people's attention. So I actually was thinking of getting more into teaching people about that.
Yeah.
The writing aspect's what's missing, because it's like if you know, you can have a really great looking video and the person on the video is like, welcome to our business. We specialize in providing consumers with the cutting edge technology. You know, it's like people are
Absolutely, man. Those are all amazing tips. So it's essentially keeping DSLRs, keeping costs low, using minimal light, or sorry, maximum light with minimal money, and then content. That is huge as well. You know, in fact, if it weren't for the content we're talking about right now, and I guess the way that we are, people wouldn't actually be watching this right now. Right.
Right. And we're on a webcam.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about 4K cameras and DSLRs, and we're shooting on a webcam.
Yeah.
Secrets out.
I know, right? And we're both backlit.
Yeah, what the hell is this? I mean, this looks terrible. What is this? Jesus.
Guys.
Breaking all the rules, man. Yeah.
Tip, guys, don't ever put the sun behind you in a video. If you do that, that's we just did it, but don't do it yourself.
I know, right? Yeah, we're just showing you what not to do, so you're welcome for that.
Absolutely.
Well, Seth, I think that's all the time we have for today, man. This has been great. I know my viewers have appreciated it for sure. Listen, man, if there's anywhere that we can contact you, if our viewers have any questions for you, where can they reach you?
If you go to Film School Secrets and click there's a contact button at the top, the email's there. You can go to info@filmschoolsecrets.com. And I don't. Should I give my personal email? I don't.
Yeah. If you you want to have them hit you up via personal email, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just seth.hymes@gmail.com. You can email me.
Cool. And I'll go ahead and put a link down there as well in the description, guys, if you want to go ahead and email or find any of Seth's social media accounts as well. You'll see those in the description.
Cool.
Right on. Well, Seth, thanks so much for taking the time to spend with us today. I really appreciate it. I've got a billion other questions for you. I'd love to have you back on the show again later on. So if you're interested in doing a follow-up sometime, that'd be great. Definitely. Cool. All right, Seth. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.